Okay, welcome to lesson 19. We continue with lists. So let's have a list named x equals, now we have a bunch of integers, 100, minus 5, 0 to 34. And I want to print all of these elements. So I want to print 6 elements. So how to do it? So simple, print x square bracket 0, 1, 2, print x3, print x4, and the last one, print x5. So we have 6 elements, 6 print functions. So what if we have 1 million values? What if we have 1 billion elements? Is it feasible to print all the elements this way? And the answer is no. So it's not practical to print all the elements this way, because you can't write 1 billion print functions. So what we want to do here is to iterate through the whole list, visit each element and print it. So we want to repeat a process. We want to repeat an action. How many times? In this case, in this example, 6 times. So we will need 6 iterations, right? So what is the action here? The action is to visit and print the element. So whenever you want to repeat an action, you should use a loop, right? So let me write it here. Repeating an action or a set of instructions requires a loop. Repeating an action requires a loop. So you all know while loop. So let's use while loop to print all the elements. But before writing the while loop, so we have 6 elements, right? Print the first element, print the second element, the third element, and so on. So we are counting, right? First element, second element. You know how to count, but your computer doesn't know how to count, right? So we are dealing with counting. So whenever we have something about counting, most probably you'll need a counter variable. Now let's declare a counter variable. So counter equals 0. Why 0? Because I want to print from the first element. And the index of the first element is always 0. Let me write down the indexes here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here, what is the length? The length is 6, because we have 6 elements. And the index of the last one, length minus 1. So counter equals 0. And then we need to write while statement, while. We need a condition. So we have to repeat an action. How many times? 6 times. So while counter less than 6, am I right? The last index is 5. So we want to print everything up to 5. So 5 is included until 6. We don't have index 6 here. This is why I wrote less than 6. And colon, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many numbers do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. So it means 6 iterations. So we are ready to continue. So while counter less than 6, so you want to print. Print. So you know how to access an element, right? The name of the list here, x, square brackets. So what should I write within square brackets? Can I write 0? Can I write 1, 2, 3? You can write, but again, it's not practical. So you have to write a variable here which changes after each iteration. And the variable is counter. So you write counter, x square brackets counter. So basically you'll have something like this, x square bracket 0, print x square brackets 1, up to x square brackets 5. So we just need one statement like this to print all the elements in the list. So you print the first element, counter is 0. And then you go back to while loop here, to while statement. Counter is again 0. So in this case, you will encounter an infinite loop, which is dangerous here. We don't need an infinite loop. So how to have a finite loop? Simple, counter plus equal 1. You increase the value of counter by 1, so counter becomes 1. So you will print x square brackets 1, 2, 3, up to 5. So this is a piece of code here. So you want to run the code to see the output. So what will be the output here? So here, let me trace the code, counter. I just write c equals 0. So 0 less than 6. Yes, this one is true. Print x0. You will print 50. So remember, we don't have end parameter. So whenever you don't have end parameter, it means you will go to the next line. So counter becomes 1. You go back to while loop, 1 less than 6. Yes, this one is true. You will print 100. So you will continue this process until this condition is false. So at some point, counter becomes 6. And you go back to while statement, 6 less than 6. Is it true? No, this is false. And you stop the while loop. You terminate the while loop. So you will print the elements in different lines. So about this condition here, is it the only possibility to write the condition in this form? No. You can have a different condition. So counter less than 6. It means from 0 up to 5. Stop here. Or you can say counter less than or equal to 5. So it means from 0 up to 5. So it means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have equality sign here. Why? Because we have index 5. Right here we don't have equality sign because we don't have index 6 and you don't want to include index 6. If you write equality sign here, suppose you have equality sign here, something like counter less than or equal to 6. So what will happen? You will get an error because you don't have index 6. So basically you want to print something from here that you don't have. So you will get an error. So be careful about the condition and equality sign. So let's talk about another operation, another method, let's say. This is basically a method about list. How to get the length of a list. So you're given a list and you have no idea about the length. You don't know how many elements exist in the list. But you need the length, right? So how to get the length of a list? But first, let's have a list. -5, 10, 20, 200, -3, 0. So here we have 6 elements. But suppose you don't have the information about the length of the list. So you can use len function to get the length of a sequence of a list. To get the length of a list, or let's say sequence, because it's a sequence of elements. So here, len, and then parentheses, y, and y is the name of the list. So you can say print. So in order to output the length of the list, len y. So what is the output? The output is 6. So remember, this one is not the last index. This is the length of your list, the number of elements in the list. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 elements. So you can use len function with while loop. Because if you don't know the number of elements, this one, so you have to use len function. Now let's rewrite that piece of code. So you say counter equals 0, and then while counter less than len of y, and you print y square brackets counter. And of course, you need to increase the value of counter by 1. So this condition is equivalent to this one, counter less than 6, because the length is 6 here. We have 6 elements. So this is one way, or let's say one possibility to write the condition. The other one is this one here, counter less than or equal to. So do you remember counter less than or equal to 5 in this example? So here you can do the same, but this time using len function. Len of y minus 1. So it gives you 5. So all of them here are the same. And just a reminder for you, you need indentation. So let's finish the lesson here. So next time we will continue with lists and probably strings. So as usual, take care and bye bye.